Valley National Park in Canada is a stunning, wondrous expanse of breathtaking, majestic wilderness. The Nahanni Valley is infamous for its alleged large gold deposits, which many have gone in search for. However, the Nahanni Valley is also infamous for its strange, unexplainable, and at times terrifying nature. The Nahanni Valley has become entrenched in an intricate web of ancient accounts of supernatural beings, giant people and animals, dinosaurs. Yeah, you heard that right. Strange disappearances and bodies found without their heads. This is the mystery of the Valley of the Headless Men. So Nahanni Valley National Park is located in Canada's Northwest Territories parallel to Alaska. It comprises over 12,000 square miles of jagged mountains, towering cliffs, thick forests, unforgiving rivers, hot springs, and beautiful waterfalls. The park is vast wilderness, extremely remote, and largely undisturbed. In fact, it is estimated that only about 1,000 people visit Nahanni Valley National Park every year. This number is extremely low when you compare it to the more popular parks that get more visitors than this in just a single day. And this may be for good reason, because you can actually only access Nahanni Valley through chartered planes or through boat. It is that remote. And on top of that, many areas of the park are strictly off limits to the public altogether. But this may not be the only reason that people are staying away from Nahanni Valley National Park. And before I dive in any deeper, before we really get into the good substance of this mystery, I just want to say welcome to my channel. I'm so glad to have you here today. If this is your first time or if you have already been here before, either way, I love you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Marissa. This is my channel, Light from Mars. Now, I make new mystery videos every single week, so if you're into this kind of thing, you should definitely consider subscribing, you know? I mean, just saying. But I make content about all things mysterious, magical, high vibrational, spiritual, so if you are into that, you're definitely gonna like my content, and you should also consider following me on Instagram and TikTok at Light from Mars, the exact same as my little channel. But anyways, now that that is said, let's get back into the mystery of the Nahanni Valley. Stories of Nahanni Valley seemingly strange characteristics originated with its first inhabitants over 10,000 years ago, the Dene people. It seems that the Dene people really did conclude pretty early on that Nahanni Valley was cursed, but occasionally Dene people would still wander into the valley. They would return with stories of numerous insane encounters with various different kinds of spirits. One such spirit was said to live in a cave alongside South Nahanni River, and it was said that this spirit had the ability to make people disappear into a cloud of smoke. And it is infamous for making its presence known to people. It's said that it makes this horrible wailing sound, and this is actually something that people have reported to hear even to this day. The Dene also had stories of a tribe of fearsome hairy giants who lived in mountainside cliffs and were led by a beautiful pale-skinned chiefess. They have many stories about these giant people, and actually, the Dene people called the Nahanni River Nahate, which actually translates to River of Giants. And on top of that, there are also legends of a lost tropical paradise existing somewhere in Nahanni Valley that is being fed by its hot springs. It's said that it never gets cold here, that it never snows even during the winter, and that in this area there are plants and animals that exist nowhere else on Earth. This area was said to have gigantic palm trees and rose bushes so large that the stems were as big as human forearms. Additionally, both the native Dene people and eventual white explorers reported seeing creatures like mammoths, myrmidons, and other prehistoric animals. There was one incident where one of these white explorers was actually given this gigantic ivory tusk by one of the Dene tribes. He said that this was undoubtedly way too big to belong to an elephant. First of all, there was no elephants in this area, but somehow this tusk still had fresh flesh attached to it. And they were told by the tribe that this was a fresh kill. There is also tons of indigenous artwork depicting mammoth-looking beings with very striking accuracy, and a lot of people question how they could have even known what a mammoth looked like when they were never have supposed to have existed alongside it. But it's also interesting to note that the Dene people themselves actually say that they were not the area's first inhabitants. They said that in the ancient times, the Nahanni Valley was inhabited by a tribe tribe called the Naha. The Naha were said to be ferocious nomadic warriors who would hunt and kill anyone who dare wander into their land, despite the fact that they would routinely raid Dene settlements. So what they say is that after repeated attacks from the Naha, they assembled their warriors and they decided to go into the Nahanni Valley to try to launch an attack. So they're wandering through the valley and eventually they come across a camp of teepees. But they quickly realized that there were no Naha there at all. In fact, it seemed that there was no Naha anywhere. They had seemingly just up and left and disappeared. And they said that they never saw the Naha again after that. And despite all of this lore and legends about this region, there was actually a huge rush of people to the area in the early 1900s in search of gold. It was long said that there was tons of gold in this area, and the Dene people actually confirmed this, but they warned that the area was cursed and that anyone who tried to take any gold would meet a gruesome fate. Of course, this did not stop people from flooding to the area. Two brothers, Willie and Frank McLeod, were among them. In either 1904 or 1905, the McLeod brothers started up the South Nahanni River with their mining equipment. They would never be seen alive again. After they did not return for over 3 years, their little brother Charlie decided to assemble a search party to go looking for the missing brothers. They too then headed up the South Nahanni River looking for any sign of them. After a few days on the river, they would actually end up finding the bodies of Willie and Frank McLeod. However, inexplicably, both men were missing their heads. The heads were just not there. And next to their bodies was a box filled with tons of gold mixed with quartz. One of them was actually even holding a note in their hand that said, "Indeed, we have found a fine prospect." So one of the biggest questions about this was that whoever had killed these men, why would they leave behind this amazing treasure? They could have made such a big fortune. It would make more sense, right? Maybe they encountered somebody on the river who was also searching for gold, and then they killed them, took the gold, right? Except they didn't take the gold, so why would they have killed these men? And also taken their heads? And their deaths did ignite a ton of speculation amongst other gold hunters. And despite their murders, what people really focused on was the fact that they were alleged to have actually found all of this gold before they died. So it actually ultimately led to even more men going to Nahanni Valley to try to find fortune. Among them was a man named Martin Jorgensen, a Norwegian woodsman. He first entered the Nahanni wilderness in 1910. 5 years later, his headless corpse would be found along the mouth of the area's flat river. Nearby, his log cabin was also burned to the ground. These men were only the first in a long string. In 1922, a World War I veteran named John O'Brien was found dead in the mountainside near Deadman Valley. So the strange thing about John's death was that he looked like he had been frozen in time. He was actually found hunched over his fire with matches in his hand as if he was literally mid-lighting the match. And he had just frozen to death in that moment. So that one was really strange. And another man named Ernest Savard was found dead in his sleeping bag in 1945. And of course, his head was missing from his body. And these are only some of the men that were found. There has also been tons and tons of people who have gone missing there and never been found at all. So as time continued to go on, Nahanni Valley was not only attracting gold hunters, but also scientists who were interested in this area's beautiful, unique, and well-preserved nature. But throughout the 1960s, many scholars recounted experiences in the Nahanni Valley that they could not logically explain. But surprisingly, these were actually of an entirely different phenomena. They were mostly comprised of stories of a giant, solitary wolf-like creature, eerily similar to those in Inuit legends. This creature is called the Wahila and is believed to be a relative of the ancient carnivorous, extremely strong mammal that went extinct over 8 million years ago, known as the dog bear. Other people say that the creature more resembled the ancestors of modern wolves, like the dire wolf. Either way, people were just basically reporting encounters with these humongous giant wolves. And many people did speculate whether these creatures could have something to do with the disappearances and strange deaths in the area. And alongside these sightings of these giant wolves were also sightings of these very short, hairy kind of subhumans who kind of looked almost like, I guess you could say, a caveman kind of thing, kind of like a relative of the modern Homo sapien. But these creatures were said to be extremely small, that they wore moose skin as loincloths, and that was all they wore for clothing. They are also said to be carrying large stone clubs and to have very long dark beards. These creatures were called the Nukluk by the Dene. And of course, on top of this, kind of the complete opposite, there were also still reports and legends about these giants that were said to live in the mountainsides. But still, there are other people who claim that the apex predator in the Nahanni Valley is not in fact giant people or wolves or mammoths, but a lion. These lions are claimed to be bigger than any of the lions anywhere else on Earth. Some people believe that this may be the relative or even the American lion. Others believe that maybe this creature is related to the saber-toothed tiger more, but either way, it seems that there's some kind of gigantic lion there. But probably the most outrageous and just kind of unbelievable claims come from people reporting to have encounters with dinosaurs. One man was said to have been sent into the Nahanni Valley by some of the Dene people. They offered him a ton of gifts and told him to go into a valley where he would find lots of medicine. They told him that although this area was full of bountiful medicine, it was also ridden with fearsome beasts. And he had insane stories upon coming back, and he actually ended up meeting with a scientist, and he showed him all of these drawings that he had drawn in his journal of the creatures that he saw while he was there. And one of these drawings was a perfect anatomical drawing of what appeared to be a freshly dead dinosaur. And besides just these rumors and stories and legends, there is actually a lot of confirmed proof that for some reason animals and plants are able to grow much larger in Nahanni Valley than in other areas of the world. For example, there have been moose with antlers, just the antlers, over 12 feet tall spotted in Nahanni Valley. There have also been gigantic grizzly bears spotted. One was reportedly said to be over 13 feet tall when standing on its hind legs. One man said that he saw a bear the size of a military tank in the 1970s. Also in the 70s, John and Joanne Moore were visiting the park and reported what they said seemed to be a small black bear behaving very strangely. However, after watching this creature for a while, they determined that this was not a grizzly bear, but this was actually a very, very large porcupine. In 2010, a park employee named Anthony was clearing trails and collecting firewood in Nahanni. He says that one day he was in a cabin with two of his other coworkers. Him and one of his other coworkers, this guy, they were taking a nap in the bunk room on the bunk beds. While they were taking this nap, their other coworker, Amy, she was in the kitchen doing dishes. So Anthony says that he was kind of falling asleep. He wasn't completely asleep, but he was kind of just, fading out of consciousness. And he remembers distinctly hearing Amy doing the dishes for a little while. And after a little bit of time had passed, the water turned off and there was no noise at all anymore. It was just like completely silent in the cabin. Soon after this, Anthony could hear footsteps of what sounded like somebody coming over into the room. He heard someone enter the room and then felt someone kind of shake his ankle. Now he thought that this was probably Amy trying to wake him up to go and finish the dishes for her. So he was just kind of like, I'm really tired. I'm just going to pretend I'm not going to wake up, I'm just going to ignore that. So he ignores it. And after he does this, he hears her, whatever this is, kind of like shuffle around in the room, make some noise, and then eventually it starts shaking his shoulder, and it's shaking it kind of aggressively. But at that point, he was kind of getting annoyed, I guess, and he was just like, no, I'm gonna stay napping, just go, just leave me alone. So, yeah, he's obviously just thinking, it's just Amy, whatever, it's fine, it's fine. So this being, after it stopped shaking his his shoulder, it kind of like makes like these disgruntled noises and kind of like bangs its feet angrily and just storms out of the room. Now after that, Anthony was just like, okay, that was a little dramatic. So he opens his eyes, and by the time he opens his eyes, no one is there anymore. So he decides to get up and he goes and walks into the little kitchen area, and he finds Amy asleep on the couch. And she was completely asleep. He actually had to wake her up. And he asked her, you know, like, what was up? What happened? Like, why were you trying to wake me so bad? Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. And she said that she never went into the room, that she had already been napping for a little while, and that she did not go into the room. She did not try to wake him. About a month after this, Anthony was with a group of people who were filming a promotional video for Nahanni when they heard a sound that sounded kind of like a distorted raven's call. And this sound just kept coming over and over and over. And eventually they kind of deduced that this was not a raven, but it was a human trying to mimic a raven. So Anthony, he's kind of like weirded out by this, and he decides to ask one of the senior park employees who was with him, you know, what is going on? Why is this happening? And apparently this dude just kind of cryptically looks at him and tells him, oh, he's just making sure we know he's there. Like, what? Who? And after he told him this, the wind started to intensify, and it seemed like it was carrying the sound of a woman's voice singing. And this kind of weird happenings could explain where there's also a ton of lore and reports of people losing their minds in the Nahanni Valley. People are said to kind of like lose a grip on reality and just suddenly start behaving really strangely and doing really strange things. And in fact, there are stories from the Dene people of the spirits being able to mess with people's heads and cause them to go into psychosis. And many people also report just a general kind of very eerie, creepy feeling in the valley. And a lot of people report feeling like they're being watched all the time when they're there. So we have so many different phenomena reported. But what could really be going on in Nahanni Valley? Are there really giant prehistoric creatures still walking around in the valley? Or are these creatures just being misidentified somehow? Could there truly be giant people, malevolent spirits, and other unexplainable strange happenings? Or are these things that do have a root cause that is more logical and easily explainable? Obviously, there are a ton of people who do believe that all of this is possible and that this area is cursed. And I mean, of course, among those people are the people that have had real experiences there, right? And actually seen things. We can't discount all the people who were gold hunters and who were scientists in kind of the early days of the colonial exploration of the area and the experiences they had. And of course, the Dene tribe, right? I think that a lot of times indigenous beliefs about these kinds of things are just downplayed, or they're made to seem like, oh, these people don't know what they're talking about, right? Like, this is not reality. But who's to say that they don't really come from the truth somehow? Whether that be that it's completely true or it's only partially true, obviously we might not ever know. But I would love to hear if you guys have any theories about this, if you have any personal stories, or if you know of anything that maybe I didn't include in this video, please share with me and everyone else in the comments below. I would love to hear what you think, because this is just such a crazy, unexplainable place. Would you ever go to the Nahanni Valley? I think about it, and honestly, it's so stunning. Like, it's such a beautiful place. I mean, I think it would be an amazing experience to be able to see something like that. But I kind of think I would rather just fly over it, because I personally don't want to take my chances with any of those malevolent spirits or any of that other weird stuff. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Would you ever go, or have you ever gone to Nahanni Valley National Park? But thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it to the end. I really, really appreciate it. I am sending lots of love to you. I hope you guys are having a wonderful spooky season. You know I love spooky season, and I'm excited for next week's episode 2, which is kind of going to be like a little Halloween special episode, which you'll have to wait and see what it is. If you did like this video, please make sure you give it a like, and of course do subscribe as well, so you can see all of the future awesome fun videos that I have coming. And I am just so grateful for any and all support, really. But thank you guys again for watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day today. I will see you on the next one. Bye!